First and foremost, I'm a Detroit girly, so I have to give everybody a resounding what up, though. That's how we greet everybody. That's how we answer the phone in Detroit. So my name is Princess Castleberry, and this morning you've heard lots of information around trust, technology, and even think about boundaries, right? But why is all that stuff so important? It's important because for the last 24 years, this has been our story. Now, what you see up on the screen, you might just be thinking those are just 6 really big headlines. But think about how much those images and those words encapsulate what we've been through as a society for the last 24 years. We have lived through, survived and thrived through the age of fear and surveillance, right? That was started by, the trigger was 9/11 at the time. We've dealt with economic collapse abroad and then in our own countries. We saw major corporations that were supposed to be in governance and regulating things like our financial systems all go down one after another, right? We experienced all of that. We experienced mass movements and mobilization. We saw all types of social change, political unrest, all kinds of disruption in the markets. We lived through and survived through a global pandemic, first time in 100 years. Protests. We learned how to work and play remotely. Some of you put your conferences online for the first time and held entire conferences to keep your members engaged remotely. And now here we are, again, in the age of AI and autonomy, okay? Now going through what feels like another set of accelerated and unprecedented change, right? But weren't all these times unprecedented? This is actually, look at how compressed that timeline is. So see, I'm not here to necessarily tell you a story. I'm here to help you connect your own story. I want to show you what really happened over the last 24 years. That's what the last 24 years actually look like. See, when we just zone in on the big 6 headlines, it makes it seem like these things are far apart, like there's gaps, like we've had time to recover in the middle. Why change feels so hard, why it feels so hard, so damning, so sped up, is because it's been constant. And this is not just change, this is disruption. And this is not just disruption, baby, this is chaos. We have been living through chaos, and as human beings, our central nervous systems were not created to withstand constant chaos. They're just not. So in a world that calls for us to accelerate, speed up, and do everything faster and faster and faster, and that call is not going to stop. We know it. We just heard it. We heard it 3 times this morning already. That call to speed up doesn't stop, but it is testing our humanity. And what we know about humanity and what we know about the nature of things is when you try to legislate goodwill, when you try to change the nature, the very nature of humanity, nature fights back. Your own nature fights back, okay? So the number one skill that we all have to build, and I'm not talking about just for your associations, I'm not talking about just for your business life, I'm talking about your personal life and in your relationships at home and in your community where things matter the most to you all. We have to learn how to identify the truth in our triggers, because our triggers are the hidden side of change. Okay, how we respond. The reason why everything feels so intense is because there was no pause button. See, when you look at it as just those big 6 headlines, you think that in the middle, you recovered. You paused, you had a breather. You've never had a breather. The timeline has been compacted, compressed, and the truth is in your triggers. We all experience what I call 3 big categories of triggers. We all have personal triggers. Those are the things that stem from how we were raised, all of our upbringing, what we learned from our families, those agreements that we've made about ourselves, the narratives that we build for other people. We experience global triggers. Those are all the isms, the phobias, and think about all the macro and microeconomics, the major trends that you've even heard about today on the stage. And then we experience workplace and environmental triggers, right? A lot of times the challenges that we think we're having at work and the conversations we think we need to have with our colleagues are conversations we need to have with our parents. Triggers are incredibly, yeah, y'all are like, Not my mama. Who here is scared of their mama? I am. I'm not saying anything to her. I'm going to just keep blaming it on Chad, right? Okay. I ain't saying nothing to him. I'm going to talk to Chad. Chad doesn't have anything on Cornelia. And so the truth is in our triggers. So this is what's been actually happening in society over the last, and I'm saying 24 years because I'm anchoring my own adulthood. On 9/11, I was 20 and I was on a college campus when my phone rang and my friend said, turn on the television right now. We had a friend who was studying abroad in Spain where we had just come from, and she said the Pentagon is under attack and Amber's parents work for the Pentagon. I think they both could be there. Thankfully, they were not there that day. I had interned at an insurance brokerage firm, the largest in the world. And the company that I worked for was on the 97th and 98th floors, respectively, of the Twin Towers. Every colleague that I had interned with in New York City had perished that were at work that day. All of them. And so that's how my young adulthood started out. Okay? I started out in this trigger. And you saw what the last 24 years of my life looked like. And what I submit to you is that all of us are somewhere between Q and chaos. We are all triggered. There's no escaping it. We all get triggered. Triggers grow into concerns. It grows into crisis. And if we don't slow down long enough, it will become chaotic. And the challenge with it is that we have accelerated up what I call the Q to chaos curve exponentially. You've heard that word once today. Exponential acceleration up the wrong type of curve. Okay? We go from Q to chaos in a heartbeat. Now, it is a very natural thing to go from Q to chaos if you're being chased by one of those polar bears that was photographing. Okay, if I see a polar bear run through here, I'm going to go from Q to chaos really fast because that's instinctively how we were made. That's when you're supposed to go from Q to chaos, when there's a bear after you, when there's a fire, when you hear gunshots, when you hear things like that that are very common in our society. What's not normal is going from Q to chaos at the sight of every tweet. Yeah, right? That's not normal, but that's how we're behaving at the sight of every tweet. You shouldn't be going ballistic over somebody's Facebook comments. And now some of that rhetoric is even coming into LinkedIn, right? We start to see more and more, and we're like, why are people reacting this way? As leaders, the number one challenge I submit to you is that as leaders, not just in our associations, not just in our bureaus, but in our homes, in our communities, we have a responsibility to disrupt the Q to chaos curve. We are going up too fast. And it is because over time, we never really recovered. Can we just say that? See, when you look at it as those big 6 headlines, you think you recovered in the middle. You didn't. It wasn't 6. There were 30 major triggering transformations that happened in the United States alone. I'm not even talking about the world. How many of us have family members abroad? A lot of us, see, a lot of us travel. We're global citizens. And what we didn't put up on that screen when you saw those dots, what we didn't put up there was what happened in your personal life in the last 24 years. I became an adult. I got married. I got divorced. No, I got married. I had a baby. I got divorced. I had another baby. Got married again to a guy with the last name Castleberry. He just made my life complete. Hello. My parents named me Princess. He gave me the Castleberry. I was like, baby, this is a brand. I love it. But I digress. I was in a very serious moment. Don't take me off. But that was life. That was my real life. What was your real life? My mother had a cancer diagnosis in there. She fought it. She lost half of a breast, but we still got the whole her, okay? Those things happen. My sister lost her house in the mortgage crisis. It was her first home. It happened. But all of that happened in that same compressed timeline. And that's why you might be going up the curve too quickly, why your people might be going there. So we have to learn how to disrupt that. I'm going to give you 5 ways. First and foremost, we have to leverage what's working. You're doing some amazing things. And there's this saying, this old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I say? If it ain't broke, you better leverage it before it becomes obsolete or it breaks on its own. It's going to break. Okay? The things that are working will break, but you use them up to their capacity while they're working. You have to flatten your own curve. You know you better than I know you. You know how quickly you go up that curve over things that don't deserve that type of time, energy, and resource out of you and your organizations. We have to, across our organizations, flatten those curves. We have to base the timelines in our communications on emotional capacity, right? Emotional capacity. See, when we think about our members, we know their demographics. We might even know their psychographics, what they believe in, but we seldom know their behavior profile. We seldom ask them how they respond under pressure. We don't collect that type of data. We need to start collecting that data because it tells you how you need to service them in those times when we go back down. And trust me, the next wave is coming. It's not me with a doomsday prediction as a risk manager. It's just what I've seen. It's all I know. It's all I know. It's my culture now. We have to embed recovery. And when I mean recovery, I don't mean just deep breathing and exercises and self-care. I mean every single talk that you've heard here this morning. If you think about it, the through line, you're going to hear this for the rest of the day. The through line is a form of recovery, some form of stability, some form of grounding. That needs to be intentional in every aspect of your programming. And last but not least, you need to plan and budget for not just the financial consequences of change, but the emotional consequence of change. It needs to be budgeted into your organizations. Now, the way that you do that, the way that I do that when I partner with organizations is to teach them my live, lead, and build leverage framework. These are the 6 skills, and disrupting the Q to chaos curve is just one of them. These are the 6 holistic skills that we need. My name is Princess Castleberry, and this has been my future idea.